Kes had saved Kaito in the river. They all sat beside the fire together, telling stories, a happy moment. After that, one by one, the women drifted off to sleep. When the camp was quiet, Kaito stood and walked to Kes's shelter, a small lean-to at the edge of the camp, hidden between two boulders. She was awake. She was always awake. "Kes," he said. "What?" "I wanted to thank you, for today, for saving me." She didn't answer. He sat down beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "You didn't have to grab me," he said. "You could have let me go." "I could have." "Why didn't you?" Kes was silent for a long moment. Then, "I don't know." "That's not true."
She turned to look at him. Her pale eyes were unreadable. "Maybe I'm tired of watching people die." "Then don't watch. Do something." "I did something. I saved you. Now let me do something for you." She stiffened. "What?" He reached out and took her hand. She didn't pull away. "Let me stay," he said, "just for tonight." Kes stared at their joined hands. Her fingers trembled. "I don't know how to do this," she said. "Do what?" "Let someone in." "Then don't think about it. Just be here, with me." She looked at him. Her eyes were bright, though she would never admit it. "Kaito?" "Shh." He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. She stiffened, then slowly relaxed. "Just for tonight," he said again. Kes said nothing, but she didn't pull away. They lay together in the lean-to, wrapped in a single blanket. It was not passionate. It was not desperate. It was quiet, gentle. Kes was cold at first, her skin cool from the night air, but she warmed against him, her body softening, her breath evening out. He kissed her forehead. She closed her eyes. "I'm scared," she said. "I know. I don't want to disappear into this, into you." "You won't." He stroked her white hair. "You're still Kes, still the hunter, still the guard. This doesn't erase you. It just adds to you." She was quiet for a long moment. "Stay," she said. "I'm not going anywhere." They slept like that, tangled together, her head on his chest, his arm around her waist. The fire burned low. The forest was dark. And for the first time in years, Kes slept without dreaming of loss.
They returned to the village, loaded with meat and hides. The women cheered. Dara immediately began organizing the butchering. The hides were stretched and scraped, ready to be turned into warm clothing. But Kaito couldn't rest. He walked through the village, looking at the huts with new eyes. The walls were thin. The roofs leaked smoke. The cold would seep through every crack. "These huts won't survive a hard winter," he said to Sina. She frowned. "They've survived before." "Barely. How many people froze to death last year?" Sina was silent. "3, Vel said behind him. 3 women, 2 children. Kaito nodded. "We need to fix this." "You know how to do that?" "I know how to try."
Kaito gathered Rina, Mara, and Lena the next morning. "New project," he said. "We're rebuilding the huts." Rina raised an eyebrow. "All of them?" "One at a time, starting with the elders' hut, then the children's hut, then the rest." Mara crossed her arms. "That's a lot of work." "We have a lot of women, and winter is coming." Lena grinned. "I've always wanted to build something." The first improvement was the walls. Kaito showed them how to weave branches into a lattice, strong, flexible, like a basket. Then they packed the lattice with a mixture of clay, straw, and dried grass. The clay hardened in the sun, creating a wall that was thick, solid, and warm. "It's like a bird's nest," Lena said. "It's like a warm bird's nest," Kaito replied. The second improvement was the smoke. Traditionally, the huts had a single smoke hole in the roof. Most of the heat escaped with the smoke.
Kaito designed a simple channel, a tunnel of clay and stone that ran from the fire to the wall, then up and out. The smoke still escaped, but the heat stayed inside. The fire heats the channel, he explained. The channel heats the wall. The wall heats the hut. Rina stared at the design. That's brilliant. That's thermodynamics, Kaito said.
The construction took 2 weeks. Every able-bodied woman worked. Some gathered clay from the riverbank. Some cut branches from the forest. Some mixed straw and grass. Some packed the walls. Some built the smoke channels. Rina supervised the lattice weaving. Mara supervised the clay mixing. Lena supervised the channel construction. And Kaito supervised everything, moving between the huts, checking measurements, and fixing mistakes. Nix brought him water. Ria brought him food. Sena brought him kisses when no one was looking. Even Vel helped, though she grumbled the whole time. "I'm a warrior," she said, her hands covered in clay. "I kill people. I don't build houses." "Warriors can build," Kaito said. "That's how they survive the winter." Vel grunted, but kept working.
The elder's hut was finished first. The walls were thick, twice as thick as before. The smoke channel drew the fire's heat through the wall, warming the entire space. The shared wall with the children's hut was still under construction, but the promise was there. Elder Ven stood in the center of the hut, her old eyes wide. "It's warm," she said. "It should be," Kaito replied. "It's warm." She sat on her stool, wrapped in her furs, and for the first time in years, she didn't shiver. The women cheered. That night, they celebrated. Not a feast, they couldn't afford it, but a small gathering around the central fire. Women hugged each other. But this time, everyone was warm. Kaito sat by the fire, a cup of fermented grain drink in his hand. Sena sat on one side of him, her head on his shoulder. Vel sat on the other side, her arm around his waist. Nix sat across the fire, her red hair glowing, her green eyes sparkling. Ria sat beside Nix, her amber eyes watching Kaito. And Kes sat at the edge of the firelight, her pale eyes soft. For a moment, just a moment, everyone was happy. Later that night, when the village had fallen asleep, Kaito sat alone in his hut. His body ached, his mind raced. A knock on the door. "Come in," he said. Rina, Mara, and Lena entered. They stood in a line, their faces serious. Rina, her clever hands folded in front of her. Mara was the strongest, her arms crossed, her dark eyes steady. Lena was the youngest, her eyes bright with nervous energy. Kaito looked at them. "Is something wrong?" Rina spoke first. "We've been working for you for months, making things. You've been working for the village. We've never asked for anything in return." Kaito's stomach tightened. "What do you want?" Mara uncrossed her arms. "We want something." "Exactly." Mara looked at him. Lena blushed. "We want to taste your body." Kaito choked. "What?" "You heard her," Rina said. "We've been watching you." She stepped closer. "You're a man, and we want to know what that feels like." Kaito looked at the three of them. Rina's clever hands, Mara's strong arms, Lena's bright eyes. "This is insane," he said. "Probably," Mara agreed. "We don't care," Lena added. Rina reached out and touched his chest. "One night, that's all we're asking." "One night," he said. The three women smiled. The lamp burned low. The hut was warm. Rina was clever. Her hands knew exactly where to touch. Mara was strong. She held him like she would never let go. Lena was eager. She wanted to learn everything. They took turns. They worked together. They laughed when something tickled. They gasped when something felt good. Kaito lost track of time, of space, of everything except the three women who had decided he was their reward. When it was over, they lay tangled together. That was... Rena started. She lifted her head. That was the best night of my life. Mara grunted. Second best. The first best was when we made the first gun. You're weird, Lena said. You're weird, Mara replied. They laughed. Kaito closed his eyes.
Kaito woke to sunlight and pain. Every muscle in his body ached. He tried to sit up, failed. Rena was already dressed, standing by the door, a smirk on her face. "Good morning," she said. "I can't move." "I know." She tossed him a piece of flatbread. "Eat. You'll need your strength." "For what?" She winked. "For next time." She walked out, laughing. Mara followed, her dark eyes amused. "You lasted longer than I expected." "That's not comforting." "It wasn't meant to be." Lena was last. She knelt beside him and kissed his cheek. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Then she was gone. Kaito lay on his sleeping platform, staring at the ceiling. 3 against 1, he thought. I lost. But he was smiling.
Senna found him later, still unable to move. "You look terrible. I feel terrible." She sat beside him, amused. "Rena told me. 3 women at the same time? I didn't plan it." She touched his cheek. She kissed his forehead. "You're ours, all of us. That means sharing." He closed his eyes. "I don't deserve you." Vel appeared in the doorway. "Heard you had fun? I can't move." "Good." She sat on his other side. "Maybe that'll teach you." "Teach me what?" She took his hand. "That we're not the only ones who want you." Kaito looked at the 2 women. Senna kissed his cheek. "You stayed." Vel squeezed his hand. "You fought." Kaito leaned back, exhausted but happy. Outside, the sun climbed higher. And somewhere in the village, Kes watched through her window, her pale eyes soft. The morning was cold and gray. The air already carried the promise of frost. Kaito was helping Rena test a new gun barrel when the cry came from the watchtower. "Riders! From the east!" He grabbed his crossbow and ran to the gate. Senna was already there, Vel beside her, Kes scanning the horizon. "How many?" Senna shouted. 2 women and 3 children, no weapons." "Open the gate," Senna said. The 2 women were barely standing. Their clothes were torn, their faces bruised, their eyes hollow with exhaustion. One had a deep cut on her arm. The other limped, her ankle swollen. Behind them, 3 boys, maybe 10 years old, clung to the women's legs. Senna stepped forward. "You are safe here. Who are you?" The older woman looked up, tears streaming down her cheeks. "My name is Mira. This is my daughter, Tessa. Our village, it's gone. They killed everyone." "Who?" "The Hollow Tribe. They came at dawn. We had no warning. They just slaughtered." In the elder's hut, Mira told the story. "Our village was small. The Hollow Tribe came 3 days ago. They didn't want our food or our hides. They wanted our men." She paused, her hands trembling. "But no men were left in our village, only boys, so they killed everyone." Tessa spoke up, her voice raw. "They let the boys live. They always let the boys live." Kaito frowned. "Why?" Tessa looked at him. Because they take them to their fortress, to their mother. The Hollow Mother? Tessa nodded. She takes the boys. When they come back, they're not boys anymore. They're empty. Silence filled the hut. Kaito thought about the hollow warriors, the empty eyes, the mechanical movements. They were someone's sons, taken as children, turned into monsters. Vel's jaw tightened. They've been doing this for years. Kaito stood, fists clenched. We can't just wait for them to attack again. We take the fight to them. We wipe them out. Ven nodded. As long as the Hollow Mother lives, she keeps stealing children and men. Vel stood. Then we need more weapons, more guns. Kaito nodded. And more iron.
In the gun workshop, Kaito gathered Rina, Mara, Lena, and Ria. How much iron do we have left? Mara checked. Enough for maybe 5 more gun barrels. Then nothing. 5 isn't enough. We need 30. Rina frowned. Where are we going to find that much iron? Kaito had been thinking about this for days. He remembered something from a documentary, something about Vikings and swamps. We find a bog. Ria raised an eyebrow. A bog? Bog iron. Iron ore that forms in wetlands. The Vikings used it. You want to dig iron out of a swamp? I want to dig iron out of a swamp. Ria stared at him. Then she almost smiled. You're insane. Probably, but it might work. They left the next morning. Kaito, Ria, Nix, and Kess. The wetlands south of the village were marshy, the air thick with decay. Now what? Nix asked. Kaito knelt by a pool of standing water. A thin, oily film shimmered on the surface. There, that's bog iron. Nix squinted. That's just dirty water. Iron-eating bacteria. They leave this film. It's not oil. It's the waste product of the bacteria extracting iron from the water. Kess knelt beside him. How do we find the iron? Probe the ground. When you hit something hard, dig. Kess drew her knife and pushed it into the mud. They worked through the morning, cutting through peat, pulling iron nodules from the dark soil. The nodules were small, some the size of peas, some as large as eggs, but they were everywhere. Within hours, they had filled 2 baskets. Ria held a nodule up. This is ore? Bog iron, about 50% iron. We smelt it. Back at the village, Kaito built a bloomery furnace. He dug a small pit, lined it with clay, and built a clay chimney. The ore goes in here with charcoal. The fire burns hot enough to melt the iron out. Rina studied it. How hot? 1,200 degrees. Mara whistled. That's hot. We need bellows. Big ones. Lena had an idea. She stitched 2 deer hides together into a bag and attached a clay pipe at one end. When you open the bag, it fills with air. When you close it, the air pushes out. Kaito tested it. It works. Lena smiled, a rare, shy smile. They fired the bloomery at dawn. Rina fed charcoal. Mara fed the iron nodules. Lena worked the bellows. The flames roared, orange, then yellow, then white hot. They worked for hours. Sweat poured down their faces. Then Kaito called out, "Stop." He pulled the bloom from the furnace, a spongy, glowing mass of iron and slag. "It worked," Ria said. "You actually did it." "We did it." Ria took charge of hammering the bloom, again and again, driving out the slag. She heated the bloom, then beat it with a stone hammer, folding the iron over itself. Every time you fold it, the iron gets stronger. The slag gets pushed out. "How many folds?" Lena asked. 100, maybe more. "That will take weeks."
We have weeks. Within a month, they had 30 new guns. Every woman who could fight now carried one. But Kaito wasn't satisfied.
Guns are good, Kaito said at the War Council, but one shot, then 30 seconds to reload. We need something that kills multiple enemies at once. He held up a small clay pot. A grenade. Fill it with gunpowder. Add a fuse. Light it. Throw it. Vel picked it up. This little thing can kill? The clay shatters into pieces. Each piece is a blade. Anyone within a few feet dies. It's dangerous. If you hold it too long, it kills you instead. Nix grinned. I like it. Kaito wanted something with more range. A mortar. A tube that fires explosive shells in a high arc. The shell lands behind enemy walls. Rina frowned. Like a gun? Like a gun, but the shell explodes on impact. Rhea studied the design. This will take a lot of iron. We have a lot of iron. Then let's build it. The mortar was different from anything they had built before. The tube was short, barely 3 feet long, but thick-walled, reinforced with iron bands. The base plate was a heavy square of iron, shaped to absorb the shock of firing. The bipod allowed the tube to tilt, changing the range. The steeper the angle, Kaito explained. The lower the angle, the farther the shell goes, but never flat. Mortars don't shoot flat. Rina traced her fingers over the bipod. How do you aim it? You adjust the angle, and you adjust the powder. More powder, farther range. Less powder, shorter range. But the angle is what makes it drop straight down. Mora shook her head. This is complicated. This is artillery. They set up the mortar at the edge of the village, aimed at a target wall 100 paces away. The tube was angled at 45 degrees. Kaito loaded the shell, lit the fuse, stepped back. Boom! The shell launched, but not high enough. It flew in a low arc. It hit the ground. Silence. No explosion. Kaito waited. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Nothing. A dud, he muttered. The fuse went out. Rina frowned. What do we do? I need to see what went wrong. He walked toward the shell. It looked intact. No cracks, no smoke. Maybe the powder is wet. He was 10 paces away. They 5. Then 3. He knelt down, reaching for the shell. Boom! The explosion threw him like a rag doll. His chest felt like it had been kicked by a horse. His ears rang. His vision blurred. He landed hard, gasping for air that wouldn't come. Blood soaked through his chest. Kaito! Senna was there. Then Vel. Then Kess. You're not fine, Vel snapped. You're bleeding. Kess tore strips from her tunic, pressing them against his chest. Her pale hands were red in seconds. Get Solon! Senna shouted. Now! Rhea ran. Kaito looked up at the sky. It was gray and cold. Should have known better, he whispered. Shut up, Kess said. Her voice was trembling. Save your strength. He closed his eyes. The last thing he heard was her voice. Don't you dare die. Kaito woke in a hut. His chest was bandaged. Every breath was a struggle. A woman sat beside him, kind brown eyes, hands that smelled of herbs. Where am I? The healer's hut. My name is Solon. You've been asleep for 2 days. 2 days? You're lucky to be alive. Cracked ribs, burns on your chest. If you had been any closer, you'd be dead. Solon changed his bandages with a poultice of crushed herbs. She fed him broth. She kept the fire burning. How bad is it? 3 cracked ribs, second-degree burns,
You'll live, but you need rest. We don't have time for rest. She looked at him steadily. If you don't rest, your body will force you to. 7 days passed. Kaito can stand. His legs were weak. His chest protested. He lasted 45 seconds. Solon helped him back to bed. You're stubborn. I've been told. That's not a compliment. I know.
I'm ready to leave, Kaito said. Solon nodded. Then why are you still here? He looked at her kind brown eyes, her gentle hands. Because I don't want to go yet. A long silence. Then, stay. One more night. The hut was warm. They made love slowly, gently, mindful of his healing ribs. She was tender. Every touch was careful. When it was over, she lay beside him, her head on his shoulder. Thank you, she said. For what? For seeing me. He kissed her forehead. Thank you for healing me. She smiled. You're welcome.
Kaito returned to the workshop. You should still be resting, Rina said. We don't have time. The second mortar was stronger, thicker walls, a longer fuse. Ria shook her head. You almost died. I know. And you're still doing this? Yes. They fired the mortar at noon. The shell arced high and landed behind the target wall. Boom! The explosion was deafening. Did that just happen? Nix whispered. That just happened, Kaito said. He was smiling. It hurt his cracked ribs. He didn't care. But the aim was inconsistent. The first shell landed behind the wall. The second landed to the left. The third overshot. The aim is inconsistent, he said. Rina frowned. Same angle every time. Then it's not the angle, it's the shells.
He weighed each shell. Some were lighter, some were heavier. The gunpowder. We're not measuring carefully enough. Ria looked at the shells. Each one gets a scoop. The scoop isn't precise. A little too much or too little changes everything. How do we fix it? A standard measure. A container that holds exactly the right amount, every time. Kaito designed a small clay cup. Fill it with gunpowder. Level the top. Pour it into the shell. Every shell gets exactly 1 cup. No more, no less. Rina watched. That's simple. Simple is good. Simple is consistent.
The fuses burned at different speeds. A fast fuse meant early explosion. A slow fuse meant it hit the ground first, muffling the blast. Lena took charge. She cut cloth into identical lengths, soaked them in saltpeter, and dried them in the sun. She tested each one. 3 seconds, every time. Good. They fired again at dawn. The first shell landed exactly where it was supposed to. Boom! Perfect. The second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. Much better. Nix grinned. Now we wipe them out. For the next 2 weeks, the women trained. Grenade training. Light the fuse. Count to 3. Throw. Hit the ground, and then it explodes. Nix was the best. She could land a grenade in a barrel from 20 paces. Mortar training. 2 women to carry. 1 to aim. 1 to load. 1 to fire. The shells flew true.
Kaito had one more idea. Roman shields. Large, curved iron that covers the whole body. Spear warriors advance behind them, protected. Vel raised an eyebrow. Iron? Heavy. Heavy stops arrows. Heavy stops spears. Heavy stops most things. Each shield was a curved sheet of iron, hammered thin, shaped over a wooden mold. Ria supervised the forging. She had worked with metal her whole life. Too thick? You can't carry it. Too thin, it breaks. She moved like a dancer, every strike precise. The finished shields were beautiful, dark gray iron, polished until it gleamed. Each had a central ridge that deflected blows. Kaito hefted one, 20 pounds, balanced. This will work. Vel took a shield. Heavy, but I can fight with it. Good. You're leading the shield wall.
2 lines. First line kneels, shields locked, spears forward. Second line stands behind, shields on the first line's shoulders, spears over their heads. When you move together. Shields never separate. Spears never stop thrusting. Dara watched. They're like turtles. Turtles with spears. Archers fired arrows at the shield wall. The arrows bounced off. Spear fighters charged the wall. It held. Vel lowered her shield. It works. Kaito nodded. Now we make more. Vel stared at him. Then she almost smiled. You're never satisfied, are you? Elder Ven walked among the women. 30 guns, mortar, grenades, shields. She turned to Kaito. And 1 mage with no magic. Just a man with a brain. You're more than that. You're our hope. Kaito looked at the women. Senna, Vel, Kess, Nyx, Rhea, and all the others. We're ready. Ven nodded. Then we march at dawn.
At night, Kaito sat alone in his hut. His ribs still ached. A knock on the door. Come in. Sena entered. Then Vel. Then Kess. Then Nyx. Then Rhea. We've decided, Sena said. Tonight, you rest. No women. No romance. Just sleep. Vel stepped forward. 1 night. Tomorrow, you belong to all of us again. They left. Kaito lay down, alone for the first time in weeks. He closed his eyes. Tomorrow, they marched to war.